pretending that God, you're going to be with them and will protect them all the days of their lives. In Jesus' name I pray, trusting and believing. Amen. So great. It's nice to be here. As I said, my name is Catherine Wamwangi. I'll be your facilitator for the next 2 days on this great webinar that we have prepared and put in place, the one for effective problem solving. And we'll also have on Thursday and Friday, we'll have another one facilitated by Rhoda on root cause analysis. So they really, we think through them very critically in terms of how they follow each other so that there's clarity and there's also a smooth flow on how we do things. Yeah. I partner with SCHRP very closely in terms of providing leadership and providing training. I love training. I like facilitating training. And that's why I am here today. So I request for your participation. Unmute yourself. Feel free to participate, to share your experiences so that we are more interactive and we go out really learning instead of me having to read through the slides, you know, asking you unmute, let's do this, let's do that. But we also take into consideration that some of you are multitasking. You are at your places of work, so you put on your microphone, your headphones just to listen through. But when you get an opportunity to be able to participate, please feel free to do that. So, problem solving skills, you know, any highlights, anything that you would like to see covered when you thought about it? What were your great expectations for this webinar? Anyone? Alice, Potentia, anything? Potence? Anyone? Okay, let me share my screen. When you see my screen, please let me know that it has come through. Share screen, there you go. Share screen. Okay. If you can see my hand, if you can see my screen, please raise up your hand just to see that you can see that. Great, thank you, Alice. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for seeing that. Yeah. So we have a real good pack today, and what the beauty of this training is that we'll see the technical ways of solving problems at the workplace, at the society, at the business places, and you can apply those principles and models at the workplace. So it's not just that discussion of how do we solve problems, things that we already know, but we'll be applying concepts and principles and models that you can pick, you can use, easy to use, easy to understand. So I think it's a great learning opportunity. And some of these things, I'm sure maybe you've come across them or you have heard about them or you have even used them at your place of work. So we would like to hear what you have done with them in the past, how you have interacted with them, and how they have supported you in solving problems, because problems are part and parcel of our lives every day. So every day. So when I ask, so those are the objectives of our webinar today and tomorrow. If I ask you, what is a problem? What's a problem? What's a problem? Anyone? Unmute. What's a problem? I'm facing this problem. I've got so many problems. We hear that the world has so many problems. This problem is this government is problematic. This society is very problematic nowadays, you know. What do we mean by that? What are we trying to say? What is a problem, guys? How would you define a problem? Problem? Anyone? What's a problem? How do we solve a problem? What are some of the things that really make us very ingrained around solving problems? How can we do that? Okay, I will make a case around a problem once we have that. But I would like us to think around problem solving. And then after that, we say, oh, I have this problem, I have that problem. And then after that, we jump it through it. We need to resolve this problem at the place of work, whether it's relationship problem or a technical problem or a work-related problem. You know, problems will always come from time to time. But what we will see today is that problems are not entirely bad. Problems are here for us to be able to be innovative, to be more agile, to find solutions to things that are causing systems to break and things not to move in the intended right direction, and also to give us an opportunity to look at our systems and create and cover those gaps that are in the making. So problems are not entirely bad, and they should not be taken as negative. So what is meant by problem solving? When we thought about, this seminar looks interesting for me, I will sign up, I will want to find out what's happening in the background and stuff like that. So problem solving is the process of working through details of a problem to reach a solution, process working through details, a problem comes, and sometimes a problem will just come unexpectedly, and some problems is caused by a long period of time. You see, like maybe a good example would be you have a small leak of in the a tap is leaking and leaking into a wall. So it continues leaking and there's no problem. You cannot see any damage. And then all of a sudden, it becomes too much. And what happens? It gets into the wall or even into the ceiling. And then all of a sudden, you see a big patch, and it starts dropping now on the floor. So if you did not look at that, that's a long-term problem. Slowly by slowly, and in Kiswahili you say, usipojenga ufa, utajenga ukuta. Even at the workplace, when we see someone who is always causing problems, and we say, well, they will resolve themselves, they're mature enough, they should be able to follow policy, they know the culture of the organization, and we just let them go on and on and on, until such a time we cannot be able to tame them. Or even systems of saying, well, we have a transport department and the drivers just go wherever they want to go, causing problems in our rising costs as an organization. And then all of a sudden we say, oh, this, it's ballooning, the costs are ballooning. So what do we do about it? And then all of a sudden people say, oh, why are you putting these systems in place? So sometimes problems come unexpectedly, like the pandemic came unexpectedly to us. We had to close, we had to look at other ways of running our businesses, protecting our employees, but some problems are just created over a long period of time because we are not seeing through. We are not thinking, well, this is small, it should be able to resolve itself. We must understand that the idea of solving problems take the opportune moment immediately to solve problems. So back to our definition of problem solving, which really leads us squarely to the webinar of today and progressing into tomorrow, is the process of working through details of a problem to reach a solution. Problem solving may include mathematical or systemic operations and can be a gauge for an individual's critical thinking skills. There's been a lot of hue and cry in the last couple of days around critical thinking and the CBC curriculum. For those of you maybe who have young children who have to undergo, and they're in the CBC new curriculum, there's a lot of debate whether that is the right curriculum for our country, because it's putting a lot of strain on the parents. There's a problem, maybe it had not been thought through, but the government is going out encouraging and allaying those fears from the parents that, well, it is going to lead to more independent individuals. It's going to lead to individuals who really develop strong critical thinking skills. And that is something that every individual should be able to develop. Unfortunately, when I look back at our schooling system, where we spent a lot of our formative years, we were not taught critical thinking. And when you go to the skills required in the 21st century, one of them is critical thinking. So critical thinking, ability to think through things when you find them, when you come across them, and going through the process of saying, if I pick B, what is going to happen to A? If I pick A, how is it going to lead me to Z? Just having much more depth conversations around things that we do every day and problems that we face every day. We must build that skill, and that skill is built over time. It's not just one day you say, oh, now I'm putting on my critical thinking hat and go through it. It's a deliberate skill that you have to build, thinking through things every day, looking at different alternatives, bouncing ideas, having brainstorming sessions, so that people really know that you just don't make decisions based on very loose surface, let me call it like that, but you have actually thought through and you're able to become more independent. So that's what sometimes we lack. And I keep encouraging every HR to look at their competency pillars, and every job should have the ability for critical thinking. So if that has not been done, maybe I would encourage you to look at that skill in a very deliberate process. So welcome the ones who have joined. Problems get solved depending on the skills which managers possess. Isn't it true? And one of them is critical thinking skills, empathy. And we can talk about those skills that managers are expected to possess so that they are able to solve problems. Their proactivity, responsiveness, and their management style. There is no definite problem-solving model that works in all given situations and with all management styles. We have to pick one over the other, and some problems are easy to solve, some problems are more complex, some problems will take a longer time to resolve, So we need to understand what is it and how are we going to get affected as a business when we don't resolve problems quickly, or when we pick this model over the other, and who is going to help us in the area of problem solving. So every manager and every employee, not just manager, every employee has the responsibility of making sure that they are able to solve problems for themselves as individuals, and of course for managers, taking it much further with the teams that they actually do the teams that they lead. So being able to be extremely proactive, responsiveness, we said, this is happening, how do we resolve it? And we have said when we were defining problem solving and their management style. So what's your management style as an individual? That's the thing. And of course, your management style comes as a result of many things. Are you self-aware? Do you understand the culture of this organization? Do you resonate with it? What were my circumstances, my social background, my religions, my beliefs, all those things really come into play when you pick your ideal leadership and management style, so for you. But we all know that at the workplace, we need to be very people-centric so that we are able to solve those problems. If we are not, then we lose those opportunities of being responsive, being proactive, and we are not going to solve the problems as they are. There is no definite problem, as we say that, and we will see that as we go along. Any question there? Feel free to unmute or even just say good morning. I see now many more people have joined. So welcome. Welcome to anybody who would like to say something about that, problem solving and some of the skills. And there are many more skills that we can actually build over time as we get to solve problems. and really what are some of the things that we really struggle with at the place of work as managers. So then as we promote managers and as we get to build the competencies of our teams, we must build, one of them is the critical thinking and people to understand who they are so that they're able to resolve problems at the workplace. Okay, any question? Feel free to chime in. The stages of problem solving. Stages of problem solving. So there's the problem identification. We've identified a problem. Our goods are not moving the way we had planned, or we are not meeting the targets. You've identified the problem. They're taking too long in the shelf. Or people we can see a slump in performance in our organization. So you identify the problem. The problem is here. Or the equipment and the systems that we are using are obsolete. So meaning that we are not being able to become as efficient as we are supposed to be. We are not optimal using our resources as we're supposed to be. So, and then after that, we identify the problem, call it out, and own it, and understand that it is really a problem, and this problem must be taken care of. And then definition of the problem. Definition, so that we all know in this same boat is definition of the problem is that we are not being able to generate the expected revenues in this organization. For example, and that example comes from that our goods are not moving as quickly as they should be moving in the supermarket, and then what causes this problem? Causes of the problem. What is it? Is it that the competition is too, similar goods are too many in the market, so consumers have a lot of preference to choose from? Is it there's a new entrant in the market who has come and new and revamped, and they have advertised and everybody is running towards that, and that can happen? Is it our pricing that is the problem? Or is it because when our goods run out of the supermarket, we don't bring them back in good time, so our customers get tired and resort to buying other brands? Is it the production department that delays that? So you start analyzing what are the causes of the problem. It could be 1, it could be 10. You start thinking and identifying and writing them down, every cause of that problem, what causes the problem. And then symptoms of the problem. What are symptoms? The real thing, I have a headache. The headache comes as a result of what? The symptoms, now it has manifested itself in me having a headache. But the headache comes as a result of what? Maybe I feel stressed. And when I feel stressed, what happens? I trigger a headache. What's the cause of the stress? Maybe I'm having a difficult day at my workplace. I don't seem to be getting along with my team members, or my manager is not managing me well, or the work is just too much. It could be anything. It could be anything. It could be a good organization to work for. Everything is okay, but the pressure of work is real. It could be other things. What could cause this headache? Maybe I'm worried about something at home. Things are not working. I'm worried about something about my children. Things are not working. So those kind of things, they really need us to understand what are the symptoms, the core things that really causes this problem. What are the symptoms? Is it that our people are not loyal enough and they are not taking the goods to the market and they are not positioning them well? That's the thing. Has competition seen our formula of producing these goods? What is the symptom? What is really the root cause analysis, which we'll be discussing again on Thursday and Friday? What is really the problem for us to be able to do that? So The cause of the problem and the symptoms of the problem must be identified, and they must go hand in hand, because that's the only time we'll be able to go deep down and understand where the roots are heavily planted on the ground. We need to start uprooting them and find out, is it our culture that is not right? Is it our values? Is it our strategy that has gone pear-shaped, and we need to bring it back and for us to be able to understand? And then after that, we start doing what? Alternatives for the problem solving. What are some of the alternatives that we can generate, some of the options, and make them as many as you can? Brainstorm. That's why we said it is very important, and I will keep repeating this over and over again, guys, that individuals' critical thinking skills are extremely important in problem solving. Because once we have that, then we are thinking there's a problem. We have definition of the problem. We have found out what is causing this problem. What are some of the things that can help us address this problem and solve this problem? So is generate as many alternatives as we can. And then from there, we know that you need also to check on the consequences or impact of the alternatives. What are some of these pros and cons when we choose these, or when we choose these alternatives that we help solve this problem? So those are some of the things, and how long, if we choose one alternative over the other, what does it mean in terms of resources? What does it mean in terms of time? What does it mean in terms of our brand visibility? What does it mean in terms of our strategy? What does it mean in terms of regulatory controls, and compliance and all those things? So we must be alive to the fact that all these things are very important for us to take into consideration when we are solving problems. And the stages of solving problems, I must say, that are across board. It's not just at the workplace. Even you as an individual, when you think, I have a problem, what is the problem? How can I solve the problem? Who's going to help me solve the problem? What alternatives am I going to take? And consequences of and the impact of those alternatives. So it's important for us to take that and take into consideration what it really entails for us to pick one alternative over the other. And then finally, it's easy, isn't it? Choice of solution. Here we are, choice of solution, being able to take it and being able to run with it, knowing that it's going to help us solve the problem. And that's how those are the really stages of solving the problem. Any question? Welcome to the ones who have recently joined. So I might just add here that what are some of the other skills that managers and team and individuals must possess in order to solve problems? Would like to open that debate up. Any things that we can add? There are many. Anyone would like to unmute yourself and say, and be able to think through? Anyone who has different opinion or other skills that that we can look into? Anyone? Alice, Audrey, Janet, Sarah, anyone? Okay. Feel free to do that. Okay. So we always say there's a problem statement. What is a problem statement? And this is used a lot by the heads of organization, when maybe they're coming to a town hall meeting and there's a problem statement, for us to be able to all understand. So the problem statement is an extremely important place when we are looking at solving problems and identifying the problems, a problem where we are. So a problem statement refers to the issues that need immediate attention. from the decision-making team. Before the team tries to achieve a particular purpose, they should be provided with a defined problem statement. We've agreed that our sales are not doing well. So that's the statement that we need to start working on. That's the problem. Then we get a statement so that anybody who is invited to come and look at that problem, whether we call them in this country, the government called them task forces. They form task forces for us to be able to resolve those problems. I don't know what to call them at your place of work, maybe brainstorming teams or just a project team that has been formed, and maybe they can choose a name for them to be able to look at this problem and be able to resolve it. So before the team tries to achieve a particular purpose, they should be provided with a defined problem statement. So what would be, how do we come up with a defined problem statement? So that people are able to pitch and find out the genesis of this problem and be able to create excitement. And the excitement is not because, oh, we have a problem. Yes, finally, we have a problem. Yes, it's not that, we have a problem, but we must solve it, and I'm happy to sit in this committee that will be solving this problem. So, but we know some people also who are they're very happy when we face problems, isn't it? Even people who just want to see problems around, they thrive in the fact that you're facing problems, you're facing challenges, you're facing difficulties. I don't think that is what we want to see. And right now, when there's a huge talk around competition, we are collaborating as competitors. You're in this industry, we're in the same industry. We almost manufacture the same type of goods. Let's say there is a biro, we manufacture biros, another company manufactures biros. Yes, we're in competition. I'm trying to sell the most biros, but what does that mean? There's a lot to be able to lobby together. That's what businesses have now found. The regulator need to be approached jointly. This is what we think. This is the kind of environment you should create for us in this business. So we can't just say, well, I'll go and negotiate on my own, and I'll go and negotiate on my own. It's not working anymore. The world is becoming smaller and smaller. And now what we see is that we are going to have co-competition. The thing is that what are you going to do differently for you to be the trailblazer in the market and not the laggard? That is what businesses are struggling with now, because we can't work in isolation. We have to support each other in a way that leads to healthy businesses and growth of the businesses. Of course, we'll still see a lot of mergers. I think we'll still see a lot of joint ventures. We'll still see some hostile takeovers in the business world. That is how the business is. We'll still see businesses inviting people to come and buy stake in their company. So there'll be all those kind of things going around, but we must also be able to understand. So let's not be the ones rejoicing, knowing that, oh, that company is closing. You want also as HR practitioners that we want to keep the ship steady for employment, because all those people who have been let go, they will come knocking on your door for you to provide them with opportunities. You get what I mean? So there's a lot for us to think around those kind of, before we celebrate other people's downfall. We must think, what are the consequences? And that brings me back to the area of critical thinking. The other day, there was the analysis of 740,000 people have lost their jobs during this pandemic from the time it started to now. That's a staggering figure. And when you think about it, it's shy of 1 million. We need to be far, far away from those figures. And what are we doing, in terms of solving that problem as recruiters and as credible people who are able to bring people in your organization if you had the opportunity. So let's move on. The problem statement, please feel free to unmute yourself. The problem statement, we look at these quadrants and say, what is the problem? You have already given an example. Who has the problem, or who has the problem, or who is the client, or who is the customer? Who has the problem? Is it us, or is it the people that we serve, whom we can call clients or customers? What form can the resolution be? From what form can the resolution be? Where are we going to get those solutions from? So this is the way we are going to craft the problem statement. When we identify these questions, when we identify and answer these questions, it's easy for us to make the problem statement. And what is the problem? This should explain why the team is needed to solve the problem. The problem should be defined in clear terms. So when you put a task force together to solve a problem, what are you looking at? What kind of people should this be? How do you make their selection? What are some of the things that you take into consideration for selecting people to solve the problem? Anyone? What criteria do you use? Thank you, Michael, for defining a problem. Yeah. You define problem very, very appropriately. What are the criteria that you would use to select people to solve a certain problem in your organization that you're facing? Or you just say, come one, come all. We are happy. Come one, come all. Could be a criteria. How do you identify people to sit in those committees? Anyone? You guys, let me not just be the one talking and giving examples.
Hello.
Anyone? Hello. Yeah. Hi, Joseph.
Yeah. Good morning.
Morning. Joseph, you have muted again.
Sorry.
Please unmute.
Sorry. Well, for the panelists, you'll be looking at people who have the knowledge or the capacity to, or the competences to resolve the problem. The people with ability to understand the nature of the problem that is presented.
Yeah.
And this may include the HOD if you are working in a company, where the person is coming from, or where the grievance is coming from, or the problem. Maybe the HOD will be the right person who will represent the committee for that purpose. So in other words, the competencies of the person to be in the panel is very critical.
Okay. The expertise, maybe the person who is head of the department where the problem is emanating from. Thank you, Joseph. Yeah, someone else? Criteria that you use to select the people who will be solving problems in your organization, let's say, that really need in-depth analysis and come up with solutions. Someone else? Select the people who are affected by the problem, one being the head of department, because they do understand, and I like that, Joseph. Someone else? Criteria both from a technical and competency, soft skills. What would you be looking for?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you. In addition to what my brothers just said, also it will depend on the nature of the problem. What problem are we trying to solve here? And based on the problem, we check at the expertise and the qualification and the experiences of the panelists that we have to choose from. Who are more appropriate to address that particular issue, because people are gifted differently. And also we must have representation from all stakeholders, the people affected, as well as the people who are supposed to brainstorm and chip in into the problem ideas. So that will be my input.
Yeah, very, very well put, Michael and Joseph. A representation from all the people who are affected by this problem, so that they do understand and they would be able to bring better ideas to the table. What about, is there a place for gender balance in problem solving, and why should that be? Anybody who would like to comment on that?
Hello, let me just give my input again, Michael.
Yeah.
On this particular one, personally, I would not approach it in terms of gender, because it's I would not say gender is very key here in problem solving if the problem is not gender based. I would rather approach the problem holistically. What is the problem? What is the challenge? Then based on the problem that we are facing, now we look at the expertise that we have to select from, irrespective of gender. So if it happens to be balanced gender-wise, that's maybe by chance. But if all the panelists are from one gender and they happen to be all the most appropriate personnel at the time to solve the problem, so be it. But I will not compromise on the panelists because we don't have a balance.
Okay, you'll not compromise on the panel because you do not have a balance. And if they meet the criteria and they're all from the same gender, so be it, and we'll be able to move on. Someone else of a different opinion? Really, where diversity and inclusion? What kind of teams are those that I'm just throwing fire into the woodwork, or is it woodwork into the fire? Whichever comes before. That when you look at diversity in your organization, really, would you just have one? And I'm just being the devil's advocate here. Anything, anyone? Yeah, Alice, yeah, go ahead. You can unmute yourself, Alice.
Well, I beg to differ a bit with the response from my brother. Gender balance is important because it will create equality from both sides, because it's a company where both male and female are represented, and based on the problems, the problem that is being solved. Yeah. Once both stakeholders sit down to discuss, the representation from both the male and the female side will create an equality, and everyone will go satisfied that it was not just based on one side. So gender balance is important, not just at the workplace, but everywhere else.
Yeah, okay. Different opinion of gender balance is important at the workplace and everywhere else. Different opinion, people. I see all sorts of discussions going on, even at very credible journals where they say, well, is it important to have both gender represented, male and female, in situations where we need maybe to solve a problem, just like what Michael has said. Well, if the committee has just formed and we see all of us are female, well and good, run with it. Are you able, is it correctly constituted? Yes, it is. Does it tick the boxes of expertise, ability to solve this problem? They understand the problem statement. If they're all women, well and good. If they're all men, well and good. And then there's this other now side of the story where it says that when you have both male and female represented in groups of problem solving, you have a different view. Women think a bit differently, men think a bit differently. They all have their expertise, and you're able to to craft it and get there a little bit more, So there's a lot of debate. We can have a lot of that discussion. There's no one solution that fits all. It will just depend on many factors. We also know that in this country, because of wanting to have representation across board, which is important for us to be heard, you have seen that the government tries to balance as much as possible, and not just the gender element, but they also try to balance even people living with disabilities. They also try to balance representation from the youth and the older people. There's a lot to take into consideration to make sure that we please everyone, that we not please everyone, we actually satisfy everyone, that this has been well thought out. Again, critical thinking. They also try and have a regional balance, that all tribes, all corners of the country are well represented for us to be able to do that. So there's a lot. I mean, it depends again on the industry. It depends on the company, who's the owner of the company. They might just dictate. So there's a lot, and we can continue having that discussion. But what we are trying to say is that what everybody has said here is that the balance, the expertise, the commitment, the understanding, the objectivity of the committee that you are going to put in place is extremely important for you to get the intended results. Okay? Anybody else? You can unmute yourself and feel free to contribute as we go along. Okay. So in the problem statement as we go along, who has the problem, or who is the client and who is the customer? We saw that. This should explain who needs the solution and who will decide the problem, who will decide the problem has been solved. Is it us internally, or is it the other person? So that is important. That's a real important question. Who has the problem? Where is the problem coming from? Is it internal? Is it external? Is it the client? Is it the person giving out the goods? Is it the environment? So that we know that the problem has been solved. Yeah. What form can the resolution be? What is the scope and limitations? Time, money, resources, technologies, very important, that can be used to solve this problem. We put them all down and say, what are the risks? How much money will we need to solve this problem? How much time will we need to solve this problem? Do we have the internal expertise? Sometimes we say we don't even have the internal expertise anymore. What we are going to do, we are going to look at an external consultant come and help us resolve these problems. And I'm sure you've been in such situations where the company has said, we need to look for someone else who will be able to come and support us in solving this problem. Does the client for example, does the client want a white paper or a blue paper or a yellow paper? Just these are some of the questions that you can ask. A web tool, what kind of tools will we be using? What kind of technologies? Does everybody have that kind of technology? There are so many technologies that we are using now and platforms for us to be able to communicate quickly and efficiently. A new feature for a product, if we are going to say this is a barrel that we've been producing, it's got a very sharp, a small sharp point, the writing point. Are the customers preferring a fatter nib point or whatever it is? So for us to just be able to understand, or are we even totally overhauling the whole product or the whole service that we are giving? So these are just some of the questions that we can ask. A brainstorming on the topic, and that is the team. People who really they feel that they own the problem. That's the word I was looking for. People must feel that they own the problem. If you bring people to a committee to join the team and they really don't feel that they own the problem, you will not be able to have a good outcome on what you are trying to achieve. People just say, well, I was pulled into this committee. Remember where I said that when you see the problem, don't be excited about it. I mean that because, well, negatively, you need to be excited that I have been called to sit in, and I am happy, and I will be committed to make sure that I do that. Yeah. Any question? Any question? Have you been invited to sit in a committee where we have a problem that is really...
Catherine?
Yeah, yes, Sarah?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Say in the event that you see the problem, you'd like a committee to be formed, but how do you get people to want to come together to solve the problem?
That's a good question, Sarah. How do you get people to see that need, that they need to come and resolve the problem or be part of looking for the solution? Is it because, okay, Sarah, okay, and I would like to hear from the rest of us. Is it because then the culture is just those ones of, I don't care, you can solve your own problem. After all, you are paying me money. You know, we are not excited about it. The last time we tried to get into that committee, you refused, you even didn't take our ideas, even when we said that, you went doing something different. You know, maybe they could be historical things that we are dealing about. But how do we attract people to sit in these committees? Anyone? Please unmute and give your suggestion. Anyone? I think that's a real good question coming from Sarah. How do we get the commitment? Yeah.
I don't know whether this is be correct, but for me, the nature of the problem will determine the way forward in terms of what will be required. In terms of the scope, in other words, to what extent does it involve or the customers or the numbers of people, depending on the nature of the problem. Like for example, you have a problem of salaries in an organization and you like to resolve the problem through a job evaluation, for example.
Yeah.
Then definitely with such a magnitude of the problem, you require a lot of resources to go about it, because probably it may require a consultant to come in. So in terms of trying to come up in a committee or a decision, you need to sell the idea or to go about the problem by talking to the top people in terms of the CEO, for example, to be able to now explain how best is good to resolve the problem. And that, of course, we may involve recruiting a consultant to go about the problem. And because the resources of money and time is required, then definitely the CEO will come in, and once he's convinced, then you will go about now resolving the problem, either through outsourcing the process. Of course, a committee will be involved in terms of representation and all this. So to come up with a committee, then the scope of the problem is very key. And then, of course, the support you get from the institution is very key also. That's all I can say for now, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's real good contribution and very, very straightforward in terms of understanding the problem, getting the buy-in from management or from the top or even from the board, you know, and putting the problem in its perspective around who can be able to solve this problem for us. But one of the things that, and I like what you have said, Michael, is it Michael Joseph? Sorry if I confuse your names, is that the buy-in from the top, because sometimes they will not even sit in these committees. And how do we also make sure that the people who are selected are going to be committed and they do understand and they are able to look into giving their best and resolving those problems that we have in the organization? You know, pockets and asking people, going out and giving feedback from time to time, and not just sitting there and one day unveiling for us whatever solutions. I think there's a tendency for these committees just to sit in, do all the work without involving the larger people who are also affected by this problem. Of course, we can't have the 300 of us resolving the problem. But if 10 of us have been asked, 10%, periodically going out and saying, this is what we are doing, this is where we are, this is what we have found out, these are some of the alternatives that we have derived from, and now coming to getting the look and feel, and getting people also to give their input, so that we can move in the same vein, so that when we unveil and say, finally, this is what we suggest to do, then people are not, oh, okay, we stay there and stuff like that. Yeah. Someone else, and of course, I must also put a caveat there, depends with the nature of the problem as well. Okay. Someone else? Just to add in, how do we get people to join these committees? Someone else? Just to add. Sarah, is that something that you can work with?
Yes, thanks.
Great, yeah. I like that example that has been given of the job evaluation, because it's a real problem everywhere. Unless you don't have that problem, kudos. I think it continues to be very contentious around. We are doing the same work, and you're being paid. Me, I'm being paid 48,000, and you are being paid 50,000. That 2,000 difference can bring a problem from here to Kathmandu, isn't it? Even with a few thousands, even with a few hundreds, we still have those discussions. How people find themselves getting to know about the other person's salary. We are all always asking as HR practitioners how that happens. We do not understand. We have already signed the confidentiality clause, but it's still, people know what everybody earns, but that's not the point. The point is that some of these very well-intended problem-solving solutions, so we want to do a job evaluation, very well-intended, to make sure that we've aligned internally and we've aligned externally. We might even bring an external. It's always recommended to bring an external consultant to help you in the job evaluation. However, is that sometimes we are so excited about solving these problems without us thinking through the resources that will be required. And sometimes we just think around the resources of solving this problem. This problem might take us 6 weeks to resolve. During that time, we might need to travel to our branch office in Kisumu. We make a budget for solving this problem, but not for implementing some of these things that we will be doing. And that's something that I would like us think critically when we are talking about problem solving. This sitting down and having mandazi and tea around the table, it's no brainer. We make a budget that we will need 200,000 to come up for 6 weeks to do this job. That's fine. The budget is passed. That is okay. We are all happy. We go whistling away. We got it started. Now everybody is excited. And then not knowing the magnitude of what awaits us, that if we need to, let's say, a job evaluation, and many HRs will bear me witness, and they always know that we might have to push our costs if we implement by a certain percentage, or even just call it the overall implementation might take 40% of our current wage bill, So let's say our wage bill is 10 million per month. So 40% is a big amount. And where are we going to get that money from? Are we ready? That's always whatever. And when you go and ask, you're happy to do a job evaluation, Are you happy to make sure that the outcome, you can implement the outcome so that you don't make people feel that they did all this and there were no actions, So 2 times I have gone to an organization being invited, and when I asked them, so end product, you will have new grading structure and you will have a new salary scale structure. And half the time we know is that they are going to move because you have seen the need. Are you ready? No. Can we pack it for 2 years? Then I say, there's no need of causing a lot of excitement in the organization. And then you cause a lot of anxiety when the process is ongoing. When we have the result, we are not able to implement it. And then there is people feel demotivated. So it's important for us to be able to look at the end product of what we are doing. Some problems are more urgent, like if your goods are not moving, what do we need to do about it? We need to make a solution for that. But some of the things that you cannot implement internally and you are not ready for them, then have a better communication strategy on how you're going to communicate that. And then they say, so what can we do? And I said, let's look for the low-lying fruits around. Money is important, it's a great motivator, but what other things can we do internally? Are you appreciating people enough? Are you giving people exciting jobs? Are you seconding people and you have those opportunities? Are you offering trainings? Or we don't have money for training? Talk to your networks, HR people. That's what we keep on saying. Here, build networks and say, Sarah is very good at customer service, and come and invite Sarah pro bono, Sarah, kuja unisaidie, Mimi, So there are many things that we can do. By the time we know and we are building our portfolio and our pot for money, 2 years are over and people have felt motivated, and then we can implement some of these problems. So as we said, problems are not bad, not entirely at all, as long as we have a solution, and those solutions will lead to better efficiencies for the organization, will lead to higher productivity in the organization. Okay? Any question as we move ahead? As we move along? Any question? Any suggestion? Okay. So as we said, and as sometimes we will just have recapped as we look at the slides, the primary purpose of a problem statement is to focus the attention of the problem-solving team. So we've come together, we've looked at all those statements, and we have come up with a statement. So the people that are coming around are the ones who are going to do that. A research worth problem statement is the description of the active challenge, what is happening to us. A research worth problem statement should address all 6 questions of what, how, when, why, and who. The 6 questions that we like asking all the time, what is happening? How did we get here? How are we going to resolve it? Where are we now? When did this happen? Why did it happen? Who did it happen to? Who's going to assist us? All those very basic questions that we all do understand. So what we are trying to say is that the problem statement stage is extremely important, and we should not rush because we think, oh, we know it all. Take time for the committee to understand what needs to be done and help them come up with a problem statement. On the other hand, a problem statement is of the problem is 1 or 2 sentences that outlines the problem that is being addressed. So nothing complicated, nothing serious. Nothing that I have to think, Allah, now you've completely massacred the problem. And it was a simple one. Our cells are not moving. Why? Who? What? When? Those 6 nouns, adjectives that we have actually just outlined. Any question there? Any question? Okay. So did you know that majority of root cause problems are hidden in the system, can be found through research, can be controlled by management, and can be removed through improvements? As simple as that, what we are saying. is that the root cause of the problems are, the symptoms we need to are hidden in the system. Whether it's people's bad behavior, whether it's the gaps in the systems and the operations that we use, they can be found through research over time. When you keep your data and when you're getting feedback, if you're giving proactive feedback and people are soliciting for feedback, then you're able to find out, from your research. And we're not saying that when we speak about the word research, it is not this complicated, problem, whatever. It can just be simple. You've talked to two, three people, you've observed it over a period of time, and you find that there is a pattern that is emerging, okay? Can be controlled by management and can be removed through improvements, Management has a big role to play in solving problems. Any question there? Any question, any feedback, any reaction? Any reaction? Okay. Okay, thank you, Rose, and I will read your comment. It's very useful and very timely. People who are chosen to join these committees should have great integrity. Box number 1, knowledgeable, avoid experience, and are not biased, not money-minded people, but accompanied by above virtues. Yeah, I agree, Rose, in terms of bringing people and the kind of people that needs to sit in this committee. And that's why we should always endeavor to make sure that we are all people of integrity. Moral grounds. What do you know? What do you do when people are not watching you? What do you do when people are watching you? Consistent behavior that you can be relied upon. There is no one day you do this and the other day you don't do that. Consistency. So how is the problem-solving process? So we are the problem. So we've identified the problem, the stages of problem solving. We've also come and seen how we are going to get out the problem statement. We've alluded to some of maybe examples that we can solve, So we define the problem, identify potential causes, analyze potential causes, draw conclusions, sorry, it's inverted like this, make recommendations. So that's what will be happening with the committee. This is what you would expect them to be. And this, even when you think about it, when you take, by the way, guys, we have only, is it how many days? 120 days before the year ends. I'm sure now we are all, if your financial year ends in December, you are now at high gear number 5, maybe now that's where you're working from. That you are looking at you're starting to look at past performance, you're starting to plan for 2022. So this is a busy time for any person, maybe a head of department, or even as HR who will be looking after formal evaluations in your organization, and of course we all know that December is short. So for me, even when I look at what's happening, when you think about it, you've got only September is mid now, it's almost gone. So you've got October and November. The latest you can make any plans and get them approved is by 12th of December, because 12th of December, we are all going. So those are some of the things, even when you look, problem of planning right now for next year, it's not really a problem, but when you think it's something that you need to do it with a lot of precision, you need to make those plans work, and maybe you might be hit by a problem. So how are you going to make sure that the process of solving the problem is actually identified, and for you to have, so that you don't feel the pressure, write it down, look at what is happening, analyze it, draw conclusions, and be able to make recommendations. So defining the problem. Someone read for us so that I'm not the only one talking all the time. Please, someone unmute and just read what is on the screen. Problem definition.
Faith, I can read.
Thank you very much.
This is the most definition problem. This is the most important step in the process because it drives the analysis. The second one, deal with the facts. What is known to be true about the problem you're dealing with? The third one, challenge assumptions. Fourth, separate symptoms from actual problems. 5, develop a main question. And the last one, questions are most useful way to structure problems.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate. So this is a very important state. That's what it's saying, because this is where it all comes from. My question is that and it was asked in another forum that we were in, is grievance handling and disciplinary hearings, are you trying to solve problems, or what are you trying to do? Very good question. Grievance handling and someone who's going through a disciplinary process, are you trying to solve a problem? Is there any difference? Do you use the same principles like what we have seen? Anyone? A different opinion? We had a good discussion around that. Anyone? Are they one and the same thing, or these are two very different issues that we would be dealing with? Anyone? Grievance handling and a different opinion, reaction. Do you think that you're trying to solve problems there? Trying to get solutions? How? Would you use the same principles like we have seen? Thank you. Yeah. Michael, I'm doing that. Anyone who would like to make an attempt? There is no right or wrong. We are all trying to learn and to see whether we're able to share experiences around that. It's not right or wrong. Winfred, Alice, Audrey, Catherine, my namesake, Joseph.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah.
May I try?
Yes.
May I give my input? Yeah.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I would say it's still a problem-solving process, whereby for us to arrive at the disciplinary session, there has to be a problem that was identified, and that was a disciplinary issue, a disciplinary problem. There is an employee who is not conforming to the laid down company policies and principles and rules. So this is a disciplinary process, a process of bringing restoration of that employee to either conform to the laid down culture and principles of the company, or if we cannot fit the worst case scenario of that outcome of problem solving is letting the employee go, so that it does not bring a lot of disruption to the company culture and affairs. So to me, I would think it fits very well in the topic of problem and problem solving, and the principles thereby apply, whereby the selection of the committee, again, you look at the principles that we looked at. What are the expertise? Who are the stakeholders? The choice of whoever is supposed to be in the committee, again, is very deliberate. You're looking at what they are going to bring and the input they're going to put in the table. So I think, to me, I would agree. It forms part of the problem and problem-solving process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very well put. Thank you for that input. Yeah, just looking at the principles. And Winfred, you had raised your hand. You can unmute yourself and add to the discussion.
I wanted to say that in all the processes, the grievance handling procedure and the disciplinary hearing, normally there's a problem that or a deficiency in something that we have noted, and as such we want to solve it. So the same principles would apply, though differently, but all in all we are solving a problem in both of them. Thank you.
True. Yeah, thank you, Winfred. Yeah, very true for what it is, and I'm sure the rest of us agrees that we are solving the problem, and we are trying to come up with a solution, and we are trying to make that solution work for the organization, work for the individual, work for the stakeholders, and also following a process of fairness and transparency. So yeah, so it's the same principle, totally. And problems come at the workplace. Many problems, people-related problems and system-related problems. Yeah. Identify the cause. Those we are just looking at the definitions of this, the problem-solving process. We want to take our aim. We want to take our main question and identify more specific question. We have a main question. Then after that, really narrow it down to specific question. Each of these questions can be further broken down into more granular questions. These questions can then be analyzed. A mutually exclusive collective exhaustive list of causes should be used for complete identification of all potential causes. And what we are saying about this on this webinar is that we already have these skills. So we are just reaffirming and reminding ourselves and sharing experiences of what we have been able to do at the workplace and what we should be doing, because this you do all the time. It's not that you don't do it, but if the problems are complex, if we are trying to analyze our strengths and our weaknesses, our opportunities and our strengths, threats in an organization, we need to have a real laid down process so that it's actually well thought out. By the time we are now coming to have our strategy, our 5-year strategy, we've also taken time to analyze all this. What's the problem in our organization? How are we going to solve it? When we have a problem, when we have solved it, how is it going to look like? So analyze potential causes. Once the questions are formulated, pick one or more of the subordinate questions to address. Identify the list of data sources that can be used to research your problem question. Seek secondary data first. Time and cost permitting, seek secondary primary data. Develop a work plan and assign the problem questions to different members of your team where possible. And assigning these questions also make sure that people really have the strength and the capacity and the capability to be able to resolve those problems. If you're in a class of CHRP or any other class, campus, wherever, work, whatever, people are assigned problems or look for solutions according to their strengths, isn't it? Where you say, Catherine, you're very good at that. Why don't you pick it? Sarah, you're very passionate about that, and because of your passion, you've developed the expertise. Why don't you run with that? So people already know, and that's why it is good to know your team, so that you know who's going to support you. Sometimes we are not going to form committees. It's not going to be so formal. Some of those problem-solving opportunities come in a very informal way. We have this problem. There is that customer, that difficult customer, but gives us a lot of money. It's only, they like to see Driver Tom, but Driver Tom is going to our Kisumu branch this week. But this customer has, they have not paid the invoice for the last 90 days, and it's a lot of money, and they like to see Joseph you know, even if Joseph is not the main account manager, you know, Winfred is the main account manager, but they complement each other. They go once in a while, but they seem to have a liking for, so send who, you know, just go past there, you know, and say, and voila, by the time Tom and Joseph are coming back, they have the fact check. You know, it's not saying that we are removing the account from Winfred. We are complementing. We just making sure what is a quick win that we can get so that we identify these problems. So it's important for us to be able to identify the strengths of people in an organization and let people be happy executing those things. But again, don't create favorites of thinking that it's only one person who can do the job. And that's why it leads us to what Sarah had said. So how do we form these committees? When we are all, when we have favorites, people start noticing and people start saying, okay, fine, after all, they're the only ones who are chosen, let them run with it. And people will not give their input. So drawing conclusions, and we say the pros and the cons, after all the primary and secondary data is collected, it must be sensitized. Team members need to develop a common point of view regarding their research findings so that they should work together to sensitize their findings. A summary of pertinent data should be developed that incorporates all the research, especially conflicting viewpoints. We know that not all of us are going to agree. Sometimes even when we sit in a disciplinary committee, some of us say, no, this is gross misconduct, they should go. And someone says, I think summary dismissal. Someone else says, no. I think based on it, it can cut across both maybe termination of employment instead of summary dismissal. And then you have different point of views. And sometimes they can lead to conflicts. You know, you're trying to solve the problem, but now it has become a conflict. That is not where, so that's why it is important for us to analyze this data and exclude all the noise. The noise, let's look at the facts on the table so that we come up with a common joint approach. The worst thing that you can ever go and to a committee, especially as the committee chair, and I have seen that many times, is when we are not able to agree and say, that's why it's always good to have committees with odd numbers, is if we can't make a decision based on the facts and the figures, and I have a different view, you have a different view, our views are not meeting together, we take a vote. Taking a vote is, it's a way of resolving the problem, but it's not really the right way of resolving the problem. You know, as chair of if you chair any meeting, trying to get a common consensus that the 5 of us have agreed, beyond reasonable doubt, we can go out saying the same thing. But people will come out and say, 2 opposed, 3 were for. 3 opposed, 2 were for. So the popular majority wins, you know. It's a bad way of making a decision, no doubt about it, especially critical big decisions that need to be made for the organization. That's why making sure that we follow the process and everybody understands. The people who are invited to sit in these committees really do understand what happens. Okay. Any feedback of anyone who has ever sat in a committee and it didn't work? It didn't work. It was very bad. It was very stormy, and you had to take a vote. And then when you went to give the feedback, the others were in one camp. Now the 2 sit this side and the 3 sit that side. When you see those kind of things, when you say we'll be giving our report on Thursday, and you see those kind of whatever in body language, just know haikuenda vizuri sana, you know, and we don't want to get ourselves there as professionals. Okay, so making recommendations, the data summary should be paired with the problem question, no doubt about it. The main problem question should be addressed using the findings from analyzing potential causes steps. When the gap exists, make assumptions but be sure to document them as such. This means that even as you go along the way, you can identify gaps, that exist, and how we might not have the solution there and then you come and say, even when we were doing this, by the way, we found out, and it's something that needs to be addressed, and we've given it to the right person who should be addressing that. Be sure that your answer to the problem question can be substantiated using the data that you have collected, and it can stand the test of audit. Okay, great. Of course, it is always important to have plan, do, check, and act, a list of that. If something goes wrong and needs to be changed, needs to be fixed or delivered. If you are 100% confident of your solution to the problem, would be right once, but every time. So it's just to make sure that as you look for this problem, every time you can be assured that the solution that you have found can work regardless of whether you are the ones who look for the solution or it's someone else who's going to implement it. So how are you going about approaching the situation? Any question? A process that will ensure to identify, develop, test, and implement. The thing is to plan, identify the work on the problem, identify and work on the problem, develop a potential solution, check how effective and efficient is the solution, whether it can be improved, and act to implement the final solution. Just like what we have said, this is another way of making sure that you can solve a problem. You plan, you do, you check, and you act. Simple ways. Okay. So the PDCA, the plan, do, check, act, gives confidence to your approach in problem solving and implementing solutions to get the best quality output. You plan, you do, you check, and you act. So this is something that you can easily use on a day-to-day basis at your workplace. So it's also another way of solving the problem. Any question? Any question before we look at all of them in depth? The problem-solving process, PDCA. It's one of the ones that you can use when you already have identified this problem-solving process. Okay. So the plan is identify exactly what the problem is, what caused the effect diagrams to know the root of the problem, then structure your process at the root of the problem, list down all the information data you need that will help you start sketching out possible solutions. So that is under the plan. So this is just another way that you can solve problems. Think and generate to do. What are you going to do at that stage? At the to-do stage, what are you supposed to look out for, and how you're supposed to do it? Think and generate possible solutions. Select the best solution from all the listed solutions. Implement a trial project with a small group. If you have that, especially in when you are cutting over technologies from one system to another, it's always good to have a pilot. You do a pilot. Generate a trial design which is appropriate to the nature of the problem. Under the check process, measure how effective the pilot solution has been so far. List down all learning and analyze which section can be done even better, because you always have a point of improvement. You always have ways that you can make this work better once you pilot it and bring it back to analyze how it worked at that stage. Repeat, do, and check tools after implementing additional improvements. Once you get the final sketch and benefits for your problem, move to the final phase. And the final phase is indeed what we have said is ACT, PDCA. Implement your final solution. Use Kaizen approach. If you use Kaizen for continuous improvement, Kaizen is just looking at, we implemented this program, how is it working? We implemented this system, how is it working? Identify new solutions and improvements that are repeated frequently. Look back at the plan phase and find out if the whole PDCA cycle needs further improvement. What we are trying to say is that problems will come. If you look at one big problem, let's say changing over a system, a banking system, a HRMS system, you've looked back and say, are people using it? Are people enjoying using it? Has it brought more, how is the customer experience? So always look back and say, how is it working? And that's why it is important to get feedback from the onset, at the middle level, or even at the end level, and continuously improving, because things continuously improve, so that we are not left behind, and then it causes another problem. And when you identify a challenge, when you have actually implemented those solutions or the system that you had intended to implement, please take them back and solve them as quickly as possible. Okay. Any question there? Plan, do, check, act. Very easy that you can give, especially technical people, to use this model of problem solving. Okay. A plan, to do, check, act is a simple and effective approach to problem solving. It begins with planning phase, where the problem is identified, generating potential solutions, testing and implementing the selected solution. As I have said earlier, is that the PDCA cycle can be used in product development, manufacturing sectors, marketing sectors, etc. It's not an approach of dealing with people. We're having a disciplinary process, let's do this. It's more technical of using this problem. It ensures that ideas are fully tested before full implementation and make a quality change. Any question? We'll be looking more and more into this. Any question? Okay. So another one that we can look is appreciation inquiry. Someone read for us. Feel free to unmute yourself. We said some of these are real technical, and for us not just to understand and go out really well informed. Appreciation inquiry. We have looked at the PDCA. Everybody can unmute themselves. Another way to solve problems. Okay.
Appreciation inquiry.
Yes, thank you, Wilfred.
The first one, solving problems by looking at what is going right. Then appreciation means to recognize contributions, things and people around us. Inquiry means to discover, explore, find new techniques, possibilities. And lastly, appreciation and inquiry combined together, we get a valuable tool to solve present situation and learn the ways to bring effective, positive change in future.
Isn't that just profounding, that the fact that we just don't wait for problems, we are looking at appreciation, inquiry. Oh, things are really going on right. What can we do to make sure that this momentum does not, this momentum keeps growing and growing, and it does not dwindle? If you have ever done this in your organization, I think you're a very forward-looking organization. using appreciation inquiry. Very few organizations, we do it in pockets. We're not saying that we don't do it, but deliberately saying that one of our strategies of retention, of engagement is appreciation inquiry. Please write it down. If you don't take anything today from this webinar, one thing is two things. Again, critical thinking, we have to start developing those skills, read more on it, research. And the other one is appreciation inquiry. We do it in pockets. We send emails, staff of the month, staff of the year, being given an opportunity to make a presentation at the town hall, but really looking at problems. And we say not all problems are not bad. They really come to make sure that we are doing things better. So looking at what's going on right, making sure that that momentum does not drop, and making sure that we can build it and going into the future. So the appreciation inquiry, the 5D approach, again, define what you are looking at, define the problem. Need to look for what has best happened in the past and what is currently working well. Discovery phase. When you hear, I can tell you of a secret. When you hear people say, hey, huku zamani kulikuanga kuzuri, those are the people to come bring closer to your appreciation inquiry process. They have kulikuwa kuzuri aje. We used to eat butterscotch cookies. A very bad example, but let me just use it. But what happened? Nowadays, you only eat bread. HR only buys bread for us and tea, and you ask them, so, but you engage them more, and then you say, but butterscotch cookies are really nice, but they're very expensive. And when the days of butterscotch cookies, how many employees were we? Even if you are not there, wow, we. You are part of this process. Always we. Use not how many were you those days? How many were we? And then they say, maybe we were 50. And how many are we now? 300. So 300, for us to make sure that we are doing something. If it was your company, butterscotch cookies are very expensive. And now we've substituted for something else that is affordable, and we'll make sure that we are providing something, a snack with our tea. Do you see that? So appreciative, you're looking at where we came from and whatever. What can we do? And then you say, those for butterscotch cookies to come back, what can we do as an organization? Leave it to them. Maybe they'll come and say, you know what, maybe we cannot afford, I can ask the other people, maybe we can't afford butterscotch cookies, but maybe during the Christmas holiday or a special occasion, can you bring 1 or 2 butterscotch cookies? Finding solutions for the future. Look for other tangible things, not butterscotch cookies. I just took it because it's a very easy illustration. Dream, what might it be? Dream big and take positives you identified through brainstorming, creative and innovative ideas that the team could accomplish. Look at the practicalities needed to support the vision. Stay focusing on processes and strategies. Implement, so that is the dream. Allow people to dream, not just say, you're always daydreaming. If it's around appreciative inquiry, then you have a big opportunity for people to dream, for people to create the ideal world that they would like to work in. And then that's at the design space. We are looking at the practicalities. And then finally, at the delivery space, the 5D approach is identification. Phase requires a lot of planning and preparation, ensuring the vision is the focus point. It should support and sustain their dream. That's the thing. If we can't bring back butterscotch cookies every day, how about us having them only once a year at Christmas? Find a budget. So the 5D approach, the first D is define the problem, the discovery phase, the dream phase, the design phase, and the delivery space. We should actually be very, very sustainable, very, very sustainable. So the appreciation inquiry is when faced with your next challenge or problem, take a step back and look at it from the standpoint of what is good and is currently working well. This positive perspective brings about a whole new set of positive solutions you and your team may not have previously discovered. You know, there's always a silver lining. And use this process to get your organization looking at itself in unique and positive ways. That unique value proposition of your organization, do you understand it? What's your boilerplate? You know, can people define it? As HR, what is your employee value proposition? What is your brand, your equity? If you were to sell it, people know, whoa, this is it. So appreciation inquiry, the 5D approach, gives you another way of looking at when things are working and what can we do to continue building on them and how do we sustain them? But also at the same time, even if we have a problem, how can we look at what has been working and take that as a sweetener and build on it? Okay. Any question? Any question? Okay. The delivery phase of the cycle is not so much an end, but a place to begin to reevaluate and continue the process of appreciative inquiry to continuously improve. Once you embrace the idea of positive change, you can apply the cycle over and over again to various aspects of your team, organization, and enjoy the positive outcomes that this approach brings. The one thing that you might struggle with this appreciation inquiry if you don't have a thriving culture in your organization. If you're not people-centric, if people have lethargic around your organization, people have one foot in, one foot out, you know, you might struggle putting it in. But if you have a bubbly, the people use critical thinking, people are agile, people are excited, people are motivated. It takes a lot to build a culture, no doubt about it, but you find it easier you to implement the appreciation inquiry process in problem solving in your organization if you really have a robust culture that support people and support the business that you do, so that in turn you're able to actualize your strategy. So just before I give you, we go on a 2-minute break. You can find sources of potential problem solving from areas like escalations, you know, places where you need to look for to solve problems. It could be from escalations. There are too many escalations, you know, people are not doing their jobs. Line managers are always escalating to their head of department, or maybe they're coming to HR or they're going to the CEO. Machine failures, you know, our machines are always failing, our equipment is always failing. There are too many customer complaints, you know, we have too many credit notes coming back, you know, customer service, you don't have very good feedback, quality assessment, compliance, there could be many. So for you to know that, and sometimes you don't have to, you remember we said the data is built over time. And for us, it could be there was a leak, we never addressed it until it's magnified now, or it can be we have a problem. You know, a problem has just occurred. There's COVID around the world. What do we do? You know, like maybe in an airline, your aircraft has just gone down. That's a problem that has just found you there and then. You get what I mean? Or, you know, we've lost you just woke up and you lost your biggest customer. They've just decided no, and you didn't see it coming. Nobody saw it coming. What happened, you know? And then when you go back, you find out, there were too many escalations, but we thought we dealt with those escalations and they did not come through. Okay. So any reaction? Would we like to take a 1-minute break just to catch our breath, get a refill of water? 2 minutes break. Now it's 21 past. We come at 25 past by show of hand, or we continue? like to be democratic? Yeah, raised hand. Yeah, two raised hand. Someone else? Would you like us to take a break? Okay, great. Okay, so let's take a break. We come back at exactly 25 past 4 minutes from now. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your participation. So welcome back. I hope you've been able to catch your breath, stretch, and we can continue so that we're able to cover good ground. So appreciative theory, appreciative inquiry, something that is very important, and you can use it at your place of work. You can see whether that can work, and to see whether you'll be able to make good progress. And then the Plan, Do, Check Act, the PDCA Act plan of process, the process of problem solving, I think is important. What we are saying is that we also need a problem statement for us to be able to solve problems, and of course, looking at the various stages of problem solving. So we want to move on, and I see my screen. I hope it's still there. So we want to look at the steps of problem solving. You know, we are going to look at the 6 steps of problem solving, and there they are. So you can put down your hands for those who still have their hands up in terms of before we took a break. So the first, the steps to problem solving is identification of the problem, gathering information. Now just a recap: gathering information and data collection, developing and weighting the options. You know, this is a better one compared to the other one. Choosing the best possible option, plan and execute, and follow up and action. So just a recap on the problem solving process and the ones that we have talked about. Let's appreciative inquiry. How common is it at our workplaces? How important is it at our workplaces? What are some of the things that you have done to make sure that you have that kind of process in increasing efficiency in your organization? Anyone? Even just the thought of it. Maybe you've had it for the first time, but you do it. You definitely do it, but maybe you do it differently in your organization. Now you see where there is a name for it. Anyone who would like to give some thought of, or even how we can do it? Do you think it is possible? Just a reaction around that. Appreciation inquiry. Anything that we can do around that? I'd like to hear from you. Anyone? Please feel free to unmute yourself. Please. Sorry. Anyone who'd like to give their reaction around appreciative inquiry? Michael, Catherine, Audrey, Sarah. Is it something that can work? Are we excited about it? Or it's just loose talk?
Catherine.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say I like the process, the way it's put together, because I think I'm sure if I put it into practice, it will make a big difference.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Put it into practice, it would make a big difference, and it's a good, easy to follow process. You know, what's going on well in my organization? What can I make it? How can I make it better? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Easy to follow process. It's something that you can implement. Someone else who has worked with it in isolation, who sees if there could be any challenges, where the challenges would be coming from. Anyone else? Okay. So feel free to unmute, give a reaction as we are going along. tools for problem solving. So this is we meet some of the real models and tools in problem solving. Can be a bit technical, but good for us to know. And sometimes I like to show that I can add value to an institution, to where I work, to what I do, even to some of the leaderships that you take. We have a problem, can we use a tried and tested model to try and solve this problem? So it's not just haphazardly thought out, and when you introduce some of those concepts, people just think, la, kumbe, these things really work. And maybe even when you look at it, you say, we have a name for this. We have it's appreciation inquiry. This is what it is called. And people start feeling excited about these kind of buzzwords, tools for solving problems. Are there any tools that we can use and say, we've been solving it, but it's called the Pareto analysis, the Fishbone diagrams, so people just start thinking, we've been doing it, but now we have a name for it. So it's nothing that we do not know that we are not doing. So we are just reminding ourselves of some of these technical ways and tools to be able to solve problems at the workplace. So let's have a look at them. Researchers have developed various tools and techniques for problem solving, because we must be systematic in how we solve our problems. The three key tools and techniques are the why techniques, the Pareto analysis, and the cause and effect diagrams, or the Fishbone diagram. And I keep saying, one of the things I like to emphasize is that if you are doing any formal studies, if you're taking your ACHRP, if you are doing your undergrad, diplomas, masters, PhDs, some of these things really come in handy because you'll meet them along the way, one way or another. So it's not just in vain that you're plugging into these opportunities that come across your way. And solving problems is, and more, for us not to have problems at the workplace, we need to have open communication, real-time feedback, so that things are not magnified. But if there are technical problems, we need to address them, and we have to have a systematic way of doing so. Even the good book, the Bible, teaches us that let's resolve problems before we go in front of a judge, because when we go in front of a judge, they're going to make a decision and one of us is going to lose. We want healthier relationships so that we bring those efficiencies in the world of business where we serve. So the 5 whys technique, I'm sure you've come across it. You do understand it, The 5 whys techniques is one of the tools that we can use. In the 5 why technique of problem solving, you have to ask a series of questions to identify the sequential causes of the failures that led to the problem. Then next you have to find the cause effect failure path, which is the path that led us to this. You have to keep asking the why questions to find each preceding trigger till you reach the root cause of the incident. You remember the root cause from the very beginning where we talked about the symptoms and the root cause analysis? Very, very important. Whys technique will help you find the cause-effects relationship between the different parts of the problem, because there could be different parts of the problem. Maybe one part is sitting in IT and the other part is sitting in quality assurance. So the path that we are looking for needs to be systematically followed so that you understand where it's actually sitting. And if there are many, you're able now to bring all the teams that are working together, causing the problem, and start having that discussion. You can conduct 5 why techniques for problem solving without using any elaborate worksheets, diagrams, or flowcharts, as it does not entail large detailed investigation requiring many resources. This is a simple and stress-free method to reach the root cause analysis of the problem. So we say, a good maybe example would be the salespeople are not being able to reach their targets because they are not getting their goods on time to take them to their customer. Then we find out what is happening. You know, the salespeople are complaining during the sales Monday meetings. And then when we look back and say, what's happening? Isn't production ready for the goods to be delivered? And you say, that's the problem, you know. And then the production manager says, but I'm not getting goods on time from procurement. So you go back, Tracy, and you find out from maybe procurement what's happening. And maybe it's just a breakdown of information that the critical ingredient that is required for us to produce our goods is not available. It's taking 12 weeks to get to us compared to what it used to take. It's now taking 12 weeks. It used to take 8 weeks. But now we are starting to adjust the system. And as we are adjusting the system, we thought we had enough stock. But unfortunately, it has run out. And now we are trying to make arrangements. So discussion around that should have been brought earlier, so we know what we are going to do, so that we can go to the customer and say, maybe we will bring the goods in another 3 weeks or something like that. So simple ways. So you can use, so not complicated, very easy to use. It's more of a discussion and checking what is happening in the background. You can use the 5 why techniques as follows in problem solving, you know. Start with the problem statement. Start with the problem statement of the problem and ask why it occurred. You know, then using the answers, that is number 1. Then using the answers to their first why question and turn it into a second why question. The answer to the second why question then turns into a third why question. You know, where are goods? Then you go, you find out. Repeat the steps until you have asked at least 5 whys till you reach the root cause analysis of the problem. You know, that's why by the 5th why, you already know where the problem is. You know, even a simple illustration of your child's performance in school has dropped. You ask the first why, the second why, the third. By the 4th why, you already know. You know, you're not trying to assume. You're not trying to assume anything. You're trying to get the root cause of the problem and finding out exactly what would be the problem. And then you have it, and then you're able to solve it. Okay? Any question there? Before we go to the Pareto Principle, the 5 why techniques. Why, you know, and we're asking it in coaching. One of the things that we also try to avoid as much as possible is asking the question why. Why don't we want to use the word why when we are coaching? When we ask someone, why did you do that? Why? So just for us to be able to phrase it correctly as well, it's the 5 whys, no doubt, in terms, this tool of one of the tools we can use in problem solving. But what happens is that when we use the word why in coaching, people become very defensive and they are not able to think out of the box and look for their own solutions. You know, why have you come to work late? You know, compared to, I've seen you coming to work late for the last 2 weeks. Is there anything that you would like me to know? 2 different statements, but leading, you want the same kind of, you're looking for the answer. So someone is able to express themselves, you know, but you become very defensive. People think, well, you've already judged me, so I need to defend myself. So different ways, just sneaking in my coaching skills over there. Okay, so a very good technique, very easy to use in problem solving in an organization. So the next one is the Pareto Principle. So the Pareto Principle states that 20% of the input accounts to 80% of the output. You know, and this is a well-defined principle in every sphere of our lives, that you put 20% and you get the results come out 80%. Even we know that 20% at the workplace, it has been used commonly, but I don't know whether it is true or not. We can have that, we can open this for discussion, is that 20% of the people are the one who work. 20% are your drivers. You know, they really put extra effort. Even when you look at your performance results, you know, when you do your bell curve, if you don't have a bell curve coming out of your performance appraisals, there's something wrong. Should always be a bell curve. And those 20%, you know, the people who extremely do well almost contribute to 80% of the outcome of your results. So your input, that the things that you actually do to drive your processes account for 20%, you know. So that's the same in terms of solving a problem. The Pareto Principle states that 20% of your input, the time, the resources, the effort, accounts to 80% of your outcomes, you know, the results that you get, the rewards that you achieve. This means that whether it is a business or an individual, you get 80% of your results from just 20% of your time and effort. Even you as an individual, 20%, you want to put in 20% of everything, because that you've planned it well, and then you want to see results, isn't it? You want to see results of your input. So you take it at a whole sum of 100% of the pie and say, I am going to do this and this and this and this. And if I do that, depending, given the resources, the time, the expertise that I have, I should be able to see greater results of it. So that's, even as an individual, we should need to always apply the Pareto principle in the way we do our own things, the way we govern ourselves, if I may to use that word. Therefore, 80% of your errors occur from 20% of activities. Once you realize this, it is easy to find the root cause causes for problem solving. Again, another tool for problem solving. Therefore, 80% of your errors occur from 20% of your activities. It is important to find the root cause of 80% of your errors so that they can come from the 20% of your activities. Any question there using the Pareto rule? Who can give us an example? So let's look at an example. Every organization can use the 80-20 rule or Pareto principles to reduce or eliminate useless activities or disjointed activities, activities that do not add value, errors, defects, and can significantly improve productivity and prevent problems. You know, 80%, because that we know 20% will get 80% reward and 80% effectiveness in our organization. The 80-20 rule helps us focus on these activities, on those activities that bring us higher return and also cause the maximum errors. Implementing a strategy based on the 80-20 rule can lead to increased productivity, maximize profits, greater leisure time, which we are all looking for, the work-life balance, and overall improvements for everyone at work. So one of the things that we need to drum up support for, even in at our workplaces, is the 80-20 rule. You know, that in terms of us being able to address our problems, this is the where the rubber meets the road. 80% of your errors occur from 20% of activities. You know, the moment you realize this, it is easy to find the root cause analysis for solving the problems. So that is why it goes on to say now, implementing a strategy based on the 80-20 rule can lead to reduce productivity, can lead to increased productivity, maximize profits, greater leisure time, and overall improvement for everyone at the workplace. Any question? Just go on. So these are some of the, for it to become more clear, these are some of the steps that you can use in the Pareto analysis. Decide how you will classify your problems. You can do this by taking into consideration the reasons for customer complaints, customer surveys, or examining the rework aspects of your processes. So these are just examples. Take the data and start looking at it. Now, make a list of all the preliminary lists of problem categories. Try to keep the preliminary problems categories to a maximum of 5 or 6. It's the same principle. Don't have too many. It's just like you can't have more than four performance targets. If there are more than 5, then you lose track of them. It's the same when you look at, we are looking, where are their customer complaints? You can list 20 of them, but how about looking at where they interrelate, or where they correlate, or where they almost are similar, and finding one common ground for them. So you identify 6 or 7. Consider and decide on the time frame or other scope limitations on the material you will consider. Keep in mind that the time frame or scope you choose should represent the whole process that you are examining. So after you identify, you categorize them, and then after that you decide on the time frame or other limitations, budgets, time, expertise, so that you're able to move with the system as you go along. So the 80-20. Now, for each problem category, tally the frequency of occurrences. Now from your 6, you go back to your data and say, how many times do customers complain? On Monday, we had 10 complaints. On Tuesday, we had 20 complaints. But you must have supporting technologies for you to be able to get this data. Because if people pick up the phone and they don't tell you that customer has complained, you'll never be able to use you'll never be able to know exactly how many times, and you'll never be able to analyze the data. And then for each classification, determine the total occurrences, or total cost, or total time. Now sum up the totals and get the grand total. Just moving from one, we have this from the 6. How many complaints do we have? Find the cumulative percentage under each problem classification by dividing its classification total by the grand total. It's just basic principles of mathematics. You can use an Excel sheet, you can use basic calculations, you can ask someone to help you calculate that, so that you see exactly where you are when you are trying to follow the processes of the Pareto analysis. That it's not, we need to appreciate some of these things. It sounds technical, guys, I totally agree, but we also must be able to understand that it's not just adacadabra, out of the blues. So for us to find out, when we have this data, does it mean that we have enough employees to be able to handle our business? Or don't they have the capability? Or they don't have the competencies? Or the technical specs of they don't understand the technical specifications of this product, so they're not able to sell it to the customer. So you need to find out this, you to do the analysis, so that you really find out what is the problem and how you can be able to solve the problem. And again, without data, when you go and just say, we need to hire 5 people, the board will ask you, hire 5 people, why? What have you done? What is supporting your 5? What's supporting the 5 headcount? And then you say, oh, we've had different complaints and whatever. Do you have the data to support that? and then you come out looking, no, let me go look for it. So it is important before you give conclusive information. You look clever and ready to support the business with data. And that is important. So even these processes, the Pareto analysis, they might look long, take your time, but that's the only way you're able to grow your organizations. Whichever tool you use, it must be backed by data. List and arrange the problem classifications in order from highest value to the most frequent to the lowest value or least frequent. You should always arrange the other category, at least even if it is larger than some of the others. Take a graph, plot a graph, draw horizontal axis, and determine the grand total. Make the right vertical axis in increments from 0 to 100, just like plotting any other data. And you can use Excel. It gives you, it's ready-made for you in terms of putting in the formulas and also putting in the drawing the bar graphs, the pie charts, all those kind of graphs that we use. Construct the vertical bar graph diagram and the height of each bar corresponds with the value of the number of occurrences on the left axis and the percentage of the total on the right axis. So you can start seeing the differences. This is the problem that we are trying to solve. This is the data that we had. It gives me a percentage that it's really high. The escalations are high. So I really have backed up data by using the data that I have. But remember, one of the things is garbage in, garbage out, okay? Label the bars under the horizontal axis. Remember that you should label the bars on the horizontal axis based on the problem category. You remember you had picked up 5 of them that you have identified based on the analysis of the data, or 6 or 7. Now plot the line by beginning at the left 0 point and joining all the points of the cumulative percentage. Your line should end at the 100% mark of the right axis. Label and draw the title to your chart. This is just how you should do the analysis. You can also add a brief summary of the problem. Your Pareto chart that you can use for Pareto analysis and problem solving is now complete. When you look at all that, you're going to end up at implementing the strategy based on 80-20 rule that can increase your productivity and whatever. So this analysis that I have read, let it not throw you off balance and saying, oh, it's a lot of work. Guys, in HR, we must start analyzing the trends. And when we're invited by the technical team, let me call it like that, because we are business partners, you must be able to ask the hard questions. Even you yourself, you're saying that we employ 5 people. Why are we employing 5 people? What tool did you use to be able to come up with this solution? Can we do it together so that by the time we are going to the board to ask for 5 people to the CEO, we really have that data? Take tools that are easy, but today we are also talking about tools that have been tried and tested for us to get to the next whatever. So the first tool that we looked at was, someone raise their hand and tell me so that I know we are all together. The what? Even?
5Y techniques.
Fantastic. The second one, Joseph?
The Pareto analysis.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And then the third one, now we are looking at the cause and effect diagrams or the fishbone diagrams. Look at the fishbone. This is also another tool that we can use for us to be able to go into it. Anybody who has come across the fishbone analysis, the fishbone diagram? It's called the cause and effect diagrams. It's also called the, oh yeah. Tell me, Sarah. Great. Tell us about it in summary.
So what's good about this is that you start, say, for example, you think of performance appraisals. Maybe that's the issue. And then you're trying to figure out, okay, so how do we get performance appraisals? How do we get staff to do performance appraisals and submit them in time? So you start from there, and then So that's the head of the fish, basically, or the bone in the middle. And then people just think of the different issues, one after the other, one after the other. And then you actually end up with what the main issue is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. So you can see that the fish, it's just it's the reality, the clear illustration of looking at the head of the fish is the big one. That is the big problem of what we've got. And then we go now, fish and the spine of the fish is complicated, like any other. We start putting our solutions and our brainstorming, whatever sessions around the bone of the fish for us to be able to identify all causes and effects of the problem. The cause and effect. What is a cause and what is an effect? Just as the tool says, what is a cause and what is an effect? You cause the problem and these are the effects of the problem. Someone? What is a cause and what is an effect? Anyone who's Sarah, is your hand raised? You can answer. Joseph, did you want to contribute to that? What is the cause and effect?
I would say what triggers a problem and what are the consequences, the effect, the net effects.
Yeah. What triggers the problem and what are the consequences? If we have poor performance, what happens is that we'll not be able to reach our desired performance standards and targets in the organization. Very true. Okay. I deliberately have left out reading one word over there because I'll ask a question. So the fishbone diagram is used in conducting complex root cause analysis, RCA. The main problem statement is written near the head or the mouth of the fish. This is where it is. The possible categories or causes are written in the bigger bones, the cause and the effect. How is it affecting us as an organization? The secondary causes are listed in the smaller bones under main categories, the bigger bones and then the smaller bones as we go, because the fish has big bones and then the fish has small bones. So we go. It's really complex. This problem is complex. What can be a complex problem in an organization? Complex problems. What can be a complex problem? Which everybody needs to understand from the top to the bottom. Sometimes you want to demystify and say only complex problems are solved by the people at the top, but they affect everybody in the organization. An example of a complex problem. Complex doesn't mean it could be just simple, but it looks complex. What could be a complex problem? Example? Someone? Please unmute.
Hello?
Hi.
I would say a complex problem could be probably where an organization is losing a lot of money without identifying the root cause of the losses of money. Give an example. I'll give an example of an organization that used to lose, forfeit a lot of money through thefts. Or like supermarkets, they are very common. I think I should give that as an example.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thefts taking place in supermarkets or in organizations with a lot of labor force, probably in clothing industries. They would be at one time lose a lot of clothings, a lot of, a lot of, especially inners.
Yeah.
Inners, So at some point, they would not know how these people are stealing their products.
Yeah, wow. Wow.
And they would put a lot of money, security, and all these kind of things until they developed a system whereby they were going to reward anybody who would come with a solution.
Wow.
After
Exactly.
trying so many challenges, they offered some money and somebody came with a solution. So they realized people are stealing these clothing, left and right. So, but then they came up with the solutions. I won't go into details, but all I'm trying to say is that thefts can also cause a lot of losses in an organization.
Yeah. Loopholes in systems. Yeah. Thank you, Joseph. I think every organization has its own complexities depending on the business, and the larger the workforce, the more systems are required, the more closing into those systems that are required. The banking industry loses a lot of money. We've heard of cashiers maybe just taking 20 cents here because Joseph will not know that 20 cents. You can people who are born younger in this generation will never know what 20 cents look like. 50 cents, maybe 1 shilling now they would know. But after that, when you take 1 shilling from Sarah, Joseph, Janet, just reading the names as they appear on the panel, nobody knows. But when you balance your books, we are supposed to have 500 million in this organization, our books, but we have less by 50,000. Where is this 50,000 going from? You can't tell, because then rounding off of the numbers and whatever. So employees, sometimes, when you don't have a people-centric culture, again, these are some of the things. People look for opportunities, to enrich themselves. And instead of, so we invest a lot in systems that if we were more honest with ourselves as individuals, we would not, simple systems would work for us. But again, because it's complicated, reaching the products to our markets requires to have robust kind of logistic systems, because that is also, people want to order their things today, they want it out in another, they want to order it today, they want it tomorrow, because it's a very consumer-driven society. So people are always inventing, people are always coming up with new things. So as we invent, also gaps really occur. So even as gaps occur, what we keep on saying as HR people, are we looking in how we are supporting our teams to make sure that they do understand the business, where the money is made, where money can be lost, and how they can hold themselves accountable in making sure that they hold the ship steady at all times. So yeah, very complicated. Even take an organization like Del Monte. We all know that they have put up elaborate systems so that their pineapples are not stolen. But their pineapples are stolen in thousands every day. And they're the ones who, if you travel along the Thika superhighway, you will see their pineapples being stolen. I mean, you'll see pineapples being sold, and without thinking twice, you know that this is a big problem with this farm. The farm is big, they can't police everywhere, they have watchtowers, but people still, and they bring them, and people stop there to buy the pineapples, knowing very well they've come from that farm, and they say, well, tunasaidiana sisi wote. Bad way of thinking, but that is the truth of the matter. Very, very difficult. Okay. So small cause effects. So let's look at the steps. This is the cause and effect. What is and what will be the effects? The effects will be, will not be able to do very well as a business. So step 1, define the problem statements specifically and clearly. Write it near the head or mouth of the fish. Draw branches from the fish as bigger bones and write the name of each major cause as a category near each big bone. There, draw those big whatever. Come up with those major causes. What is the cause? And now on the smaller branches from each big bone to indicate smaller bones and write names of the secondary causes as per major category they relate to. You know, we could have branching. We are branching out on the effects of this problem. Then number 4, draw sub-causes branching off the smaller branches. You know, you're trying to get to the minute of the problem. Dig deeper and continue organizing the causes under each related causes or categories. Drill down to reach the step 6, reach the root cause under each category that can help prevent future problems, and you are coming up with solutions. So that's how the step approach from step 1 to step 6, how to create and draw the diagram. Any question, any reaction? Remember the cause and effect you're trying to create and come up with a solution of the problem that we have had. So that is the third tool that you can easily use to make sure that you do what? You solve problems in your organization, and complex problems, you can use the fishbone diagram. Okay, let me ask a question. Who developed? Raise up your hand and answer. Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Is it D? Raise up your hand. It was there. Someone? Is it A, B, C, or D? Drums roll, drums roll, drums roll. A, B, or C? Where are you guys? You're focusing. This is the exam now. Not just the fishbone diagram was developed by who?
Can I try?
Yes.
It was developed by Professor Kaoru Ishikawa.
Fantastic. Well done, Michael. Drums roll for Michael. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Well done. Okay. Some of these principles and some of those, whatever, looking forward, you know. So finally, let's look at quickly before we call it a day for tomorrow. Any reactions there? Are those tools things that you can easily use at the workplace? Are those things that you know? Do they cause some form of excitement around you? Yes or no? Any excitement around? Any reaction to that? Anything that you would like to comment on that? Okay, great. So let's look at some of the things that we can actually, the scientific methods of solving problems. You know, people just think that problem will go away on their own. After all, you brought this problem, you take it away. Don't we also have this kind of discussions? You brought this problem, so find out how you're going to solve it. Sometimes we need to be very specific and deliberate in our quests of problem solving. So scientific ways, you can use them at the workplace, in the technical area of your work to solve problems. Okay, divisions of scientific methods. So there is the intuitive method, there is the short model formula for scientific method, and there is the full model formula for scientific method. Don't get lost, you know. We need to capture everything that we need in problem solving. You know, there's a lot in problem solving, so that we find solutions and we find credible solutions which are sustainable. So those are okay. So those are the two, the intuitive method, the short model, and the full model formula for scientific method. We need to appreciate them as people who are going to look forward in solving problems. So someone read for us. please unmute and just read for us what is there. Intuitive method. Please read for us. It is just as what it is there, scientific method. Yeah, thank you, Sarah.
Enables you to unconsciously utilize hundreds to many thousands of bits of pieces of knowledge you possess in memory. Many
Intuitions.
Intuitions may be important. So too many errors of intuitions can hurt your success, relationships, or reputation for problem solving and decision-making skills.
Thank you, Sarah. You hear people who say, my intuition was right. So what we are saying, scientific method enables you to unconsciously utilize hundreds to thousands of bits. Your brain is wired to possess a lot of knowledge a lot of memory. You remember that occurred. I remember that problem in 1950. How did we solve it? It's coming back, your intuition. So sometimes you need to trust that intuition. However, so many errors of intuition can hurt because you are relying on your memory, and sometimes it is not as accurate as it should be. Then you can hurt your success if it's not well thought out. Your emotional intelligence is not in check and balance. Your self-awareness, and you don't want to be corrected, and you're not collaborating with other people. So it can hurt your success, relationships, or reputation for problem solving and decision-making skills. So you have to analyze the data. But sometimes your gut feeling, what happened in the past, it's important to bring it to the forefront so that you see how that was addressed. And maybe circumstances and times have changed, so you must also be willing to listen and to collaborate with others. Okay. So the short formula scientific method model, the short formula is needed as it's an easy to remember formula. It is important, but urgency is so great that there is no time to go through the long process. It is available in every place and institution. Problem solving. This is a problem. We have it. What do we do? It's coming from our mind. From there, short formula. Look for a solution. Let's brainstorm. Let's get a solution. Let's move on. Full model. There are three ingredients which are considered necessary to apply this method: creative, logical, and technical methods, procedural, principle and theories, attributes, and critical thinking skills. Sorry, that I forgot to add that one there. So it is important for us to know the three ingredients which are necessary for the full model for this under the scientific method of solving problems. So it's always making sure that we have all the facts and figures together. So the first one, the scientific one, is the intuitive one, where we say, this is how I feel, this is how it felt, this is what it is. You use your memory. Your memory is scientifically wired, so it really stores a lot of information. But that information, you must be able to deduce it and act in a way that it actually helps in solving problems. If it doesn't, then it's not going to be successful. The other one is the short formula method, where we look at it, we make decisions, there's a logical way of doing it. And then the third one, which is complex, for complex problem solving, is we make sure that we are creative, we use principles and theories, and we also use our attributes and critical thinking skills. Any question there? I know these are some of the things that need to filter in and to marinate and soak in. So feel free to go to the LMS and just look at these ones after this. They're all there. So there's always a fact that we like to put after we talk about some of the things that we have. The SWOT analysis is useful, and it is not limited to only profit-seeking organization. SWOT analysis may be used in problem-solving situations. You remember there's a time I talked about your strengths, your weaknesses, your threats, and opportunities. When a desired end state objective has been defined. Hence, it can also be used for problem solving in non-profit governmental units and as individuals. SWOT analysis may also be used in pre-crisis planning and preventive crisis management. So when you think about your organization, even your plans as an individual, you can be able to use SWOT to solve some of the problems in pre-crisis planning and also in preventive crisis management. I think many organizations now, when we look at pre-COVID and post-COVID, because now we're in post-COVID, the pandemic is still there, but we've got a better sense of what needs to be done. We can plan for businesses, we can plan for ourselves. The resemblance of familiarity is now there. That's where we are saying preventive crisis management. In a pandemic, what can we do? What have you done as an individual to support your plans and to solve some of the problems? And also, what have you done as an organization to for preventive crisis in the future? So that's my challenge right now to all of us as HRs. How are we supporting the business to make sure that we can use SWOT analysis for problem solving, and we can use it in every sector of the industry, be it corporate, NGOs, and government state agencies. Okay, great. Question? Any question there before we look at the simplex process? Simplex process and call it a day. Another scientific method for problem solving, very easy. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, Sarah, please. Yeah, that's the question. Thank you.
Catherine, I was wondering, would it be wrong to use just one method to do problem solving? I mean, the one that you feel works better for your organization, or do you need to use
All
different ones?
Different ones, okay. Good question, very valid. Do you use one for your organization, or do you use different ones, or do you use all of them, the ones that we have seen? Methods, tools, the scientific process, you know. Someone reaction, our input to that. What have you done in the past? When you look at all these tools, 5 Whys, the Pareto, the Fishbone, when you look at the scientific tool, intuition, short, long, and now the simplex process, what do you guys think? Anyone? Use all of them, or do you use one? When do you use one over the other? You know, we're starting to have that discussion. Thanks, Sarah, for that.
Hello, can I respond?
Yes.
Yeah, I think depending on the nature of the problem, we find ourselves having an integration of probably 1 or 2 of different type of methods. For example, when you're trying to find the causes, when you're asking the whys, it will lead you to find the causes. So the causes again, now that is the 5 Whys plus the fishbone, So you find, depending on the problem, hardly will you ever use only one method. You find a bit of each of those in its own way. That's what I feel, that most of the time we find ourselves having an integration of more than one of the methods that we have discussed.
It's true. Thank you, Michael. Someone else? It's a good observation. Very true.
I would look at it that way from the way Michael has explained, but I would classify the nature of the problem into the tips that you have given us. Many of the issues, for example, behavioral, say investigation or method that you might want to apply might require behavioral methods. I mean, require certain methods than others. If you are handling, for example, a scientific problem, for example, a little bit deeper question, then you might want to use a different method, like for example, Pareto. It may give you better analysis or results as opposed to behavioral issue, which may not be very complex. Like I give an example earlier. If the question is deep-rooted or probably cultural, probably analytical in nature, very deep analytical question, or depending on the magnitude of the loss, if you're looking for say, for example, you've lost so much money through a system process, probably you might want to use a better method than another. For example, Pareto analysis is very good for detailed process as opposed to behavioral question. I mean, that's my take. But you can combine both depending on the nature.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Thank you, Joseph and Michael, for that input. No doubt is that we're already using these tools. No, maybe we are not just saying, oh, I'm going to use the Fishbone, I'm going to use the Pareto, I'm going to use the 5 whys, I'm going to use the scientific methods and stuff like that. The thing is that because problems sometimes can be complex to solve and they involve people. So we are bringing ourselves, we are the ones who are going to be put on our defense. So we use all this in isolation. We in collaboration. We are putting on our empathy hats as the people who are finding out a problem and making sure that we are trying to come to our solution. So what I would say, Sarah, yes, it's true. We use a combination of these tools from time to time, but sometimes if we are really now narrowing down and saying we've identified the problem statement in this organization, the hemorrhage of our money is in a magnitude that we need to find out what is happening. And then you now start having a real tool, let's say the Fishbone. We say, well, let's look. The mouth is here. The big bones are here and whatever. So we are using a more scientific approach because we have the data. Our customers are running away. What is happening? So we deliberately pick a tool to help us do that. But every day in the organization, we are solving problems. We are getting solutions to problems that we are facing and the challenges that we are facing. Some are easy to solve. Come to work late every day. What is a problem? I've picked up for the last your timesheet this month. You came to work 10 days in a row late. What is happening? You know, some are easy, some are a bit complex. So it depends on what we also want to achieve, the seriousness we have around solving problems as an institution, and the tools the resources that we have, the expertise that we have, and what we want to see as an end achievement. So I think good reactions, and thank you, Sarah, for that question. It's timely and it's important. So Sarah, you okay? What's your reaction?
Yes, thanks. Sorry, I posted it on the chat. Yes, it's very helpful. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Rose, you want to say something? Welcome and unmute yourself. Rose, are you able to unmute yourself and give your reaction? Okay. Okay. Once you're able to unmute yourself, Rose, now, are you able to talk? I've given you the rights. You are still under promoted you to a panelist. Don't know whether you're able to do that. Okay. When you're able to, please feel free to just chime in and we continue. Okay, great. Thank you. So let's look at these simplex. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Probably I would ask you from your experience and any research that has been conducted for the most popular method.
That's a good question, Joseph. Actually, I don't have one over the other. From where I sit in terms of really looking at problem solving, I must say that the Fishbone is something that we have used for an organization. I've used the Fishbone and it has produced good results. But what we have said that we use them in isolation here and there, not knowing where it would lead us to and not having knowing the names. But I would say that many organizations really try to use the Fishbone, especially complex problem solving, just to see where it's going to lead them to. Yeah. So that's what I would say. Even just looking at changing systems, the system is not working, what could have happened to it? So just picking out those and running with it. Yeah. That's what I would say. But deliberately, as someone picking a tool and providing the types of tools that we have spoken about and say, which one do you think we would work with in terms of solving this problem? And people say, that one looks easy, we're able to work with it. And it's also a bit fun, drawing those bones and putting in the whatever, putting on the causes and the effects that it has. And now looking at the pattern and coming up with a solution. That's what I would say. But the rest of the days, we are solving problems as we go by. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So simplex process is a powerful step-by-step tool that helps identify and solve problems creatively and effectively. The last two, it helps in business. It helps in business where you can skip important steps in problem-solving processes and get good solutions to the issue. Simplex, a simple solution and a process. So the first one, again, without belaboring the points of what we have looked at, is the first one is problem finding, the fact finding, problem identification, idea generation and finding, evaluation and selection of the ideas which have been generated, planning how we are going to implement that, acceptance and action. I think these two areas is where we get a lot of sometimes resistance and a lot of discussion. And we are planning, and then are we accepting and then putting it into action? So the most difficult, I'll go very quickly and then we can wrap up. The most difficult part of the creative process is finding the right problem. Existing problems will bring you opportunities for change and improvement and make problems finding a valuable skill. We must develop a skill of really finding the right problem, because sometimes we think we have a problem whilst we just need to look through it and say, no, we don't have a problem. But the skill of really finding this problem, it's intricate, it's deliberate, it's something that we need to really think through. Is this really a problem? Or is this just a culture that we are trying to build that will cause us a problem? So if that's the thing, stop it on its track and say, in this organization, we don't do things like this, because if we continue with it, it's going to cause us to have a very big problem. So some of the problem finding, some of the steps and questions that we can ask are, what would our customer want us to improve? What are they complaining about? Just like those are the things that we have discussed, some of the tools and some of the questions that we can ask, or some of the problems that we are solving in an organization. What could they be doing? What could we be doing better if we could help them? Who else could we help by using our core competencies? What small problems we have which we grow into bigger ones, like what we have said? What slows our work and makes it more difficult? What often do we fail to achieve? These are good questions that you can ask in fact, pick them, screenshot them right now and say, what is our competition doing that we are not doing well? What is frustrating and irritating my team? Working from home, do they have the resources to be able to deliver? So these are real questions that will come across in a very simplistic way. Fact finding, the next stage of which research is the problem. Fact finding confirms the view of the situation and ensures future problems are so the future problem solving is accurate, has an accurate view and reality. So again, list some of the things that you can look at. Understand how fully different people perceive the situation, analyze the data, explore the best options, know who has already been tried, understand fully any processes, components, services, or technologies that you may want to use, in the fact-finding stage. Ensure that the benefits of solving the problem will be worth the effort that you are actually putting in. And then under the problem identification stage is to make sure that you resolve the problem at the right level. Solve problems at the right level. If they're there, let people also learn to solve their problems at that low level instead of escalating them. And then you might ask some of those problems, make the big problem into smaller ones, break them down. Use techniques like drill down to break the problem into smaller ones. The 5 why techniques works very well to get the root cause of the problem. Idea finding, ask for people's opinions, brainstorm, look from another angle and perspective. That's why it's good to have people coming in to generate their ideas. Reframing, concentrating on the do's and don'ts, get random inputs from people who have different ideas on the corridors. We are trying to solve this. What do you think? And okay, this is what I would do. Do not evaluate or criticize in this stage. Instead, just concentrate on generating new ideas. Generate as many as you can. And then evaluation and selection. Use techniques like decision-making techniques, decision tree analysis, grid, and the grid analysis. These are things that you can actually use to be able to evaluate. And then some of the tips around here are risk analysis, explore things where things can go or can go or went wrong. Impact analysis, a framework for exploring consequences of your decisions. Force field analysis, explain the pros and cons against the change. And the 6 thinking hats, which help you explore, then make valid decision making. So the 6, why, the what, the why, the what, the when, the how, okay? And then the planning stage is also very important. What are the next stages that you will be taking to lay out who, what, when, where, and how you are going to deliver the work? Build the project management skills. And I believe one of the critical skills that we should all be developing now is project management, because we project manage projects, but also there's a big area of project managing HR processes which involve people. Draw a Gantt chart, a Gantt chart showing that this is where it's starting, this is where it should be, and this is where it should be ending, and following a specific time frame. And then acceptance, who's going to, at this stage, test your ideas with a small team like what we said, and learn how you can improve the idea, look at the problem from other perspectives, implement what has the largest impact on several people who actually, and make sure that people are actually supporting your idea. And then the action plan. This is the last stage of your whole process, and your creativity and preparation comes into action. Ensure processes are the process is implemented as smoothly as possible, and it also has a seamless smooth transition. So evaluate, use Kaizen for continuous improvement, things that we have spoken in the past. So the processes are the same. It just depends on the kind of industry you are in, what you are aiming at achieving, how soon you are aiming at achieving the solution, who is going to support you in that, so that you can be able to come up with solutions. And the thing is that you are trying to bring back normalcy. As you solve problems, let's also agree, we are trying to bring back normalcy. We are trying to create efficiencies. We are trying to collaborate teams together and find joint solutions. And we're also trying to create sustainability for what we are doing. So Simplex is a powerful approach to create problem solving. It can be used for projects and organization of any scale. Upon completion of the 8 stages, you can start it again to find and solve other problems. We need to look for what problems we have in the organization, not just when problems. So this Simplex process, it helps you identify what possible problems could be we could all be sitting here hunky-dory, very happy, but we have problems and we must go out. It's not witch hunting. It's a process that wants us to improve our processes, and come up with solutions before the problem finds us, before audits are done, before evaluations are done, before compliance comes, and say, oh, we have this. We are getting into this, and this is what. So, but because the sad bit and the reality is that many organizations do not ascribe to this, going out for looking for problems, because it sounds so negative. But if we were to build our brands, what is our unique selling proposition as an organization? We go out actively looking for problems that could be in our organization and our systems and trying to address them. It's not about people, it's about the system itself, and coming and saying, ooh, okay, we could be facing this potential for a problem over there. How do we solve it? It could be, you find out, oh, it could be complex, or it could be just very simple. The process follows the 8 cycle stage. The 8 stages ensure that you solve the most significant problems with the best solutions available, so that this process can help you to be intensely creative. This is where agile organizations really emerge from, because they always want to refocus and to rewire and to reset themselves, so that they continue looking for those, they continue solving those problems. This technique describes about breaking complex problems into progressive, smaller parts. Write down the problem on a sheet of paper. The drill down approach, this is another one, sorry. Write down on a piece of paper. It's just like a funnel. Sorry, I should have introduced this. This looking for other problems in the organization. Now you have a bigger one, but you put it in a funnel. You go reducing until you're able to come up with a solution. So it's important for us to be able to document and write down the points relating to the problem, information, questions, and potential solutions that need to be created at each stage. This is called the drilling down. What's happening? Like even as you continue to drill, you're looking for gold. That you have to drill and continue drilling until you come to that level where you're able to get it. As you're drilling, you know that you will be faced with many problems, and you need to look for solutions within. As you encounter those problems and challenges, you need to look for those solutions. For each point listed, repeat the process until you fully understand the process that are contributing to the problem, until you resolve that, and maybe make processes and make policies around that, so that we're able to do that. Okay, so those are the techniques, those are the tools, those are the processes today that we have covered. I'd like to stop it there and invite questions, reactions? Was it useful? Things that you can use? Then tomorrow we'll start with brainstorming, problem solving, and brainstorming of finding solutions. I go back to plenary. Was it useful? Did you have fun? Are you taking new insights? Anyone would like to unmute and say something? Very grateful for this session. Thank you for your feedback. Anyone?
Hi, Catherine. I just wanted to say thanks. It's definitely come at a great time.
Mm-hmm.
When I say great time, we got some good news, so at least we'll continue our work.
Yeah.
So at least I'm encouraged to be able to want to implement this, especially with the HOD in our organization.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you, Alice. Session has been very useful. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah, Michael?
I also want to appreciate the session has been so smooth. The delivery of the lessons is also seamless and simply put and understandable. Thank you so much. It has helped me also to put into perspective things that we have been doing haphazardly without knowing. Now we are putting them in context. The critical thinking, the appreciation, inquiry, the 5D approaches, now when you're doing next time will be more, or it will be more deliberate than a random combination of things. Thank you so much. It's helpful.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you for that feedback. All of us learn from these processes. Yeah, thank you Rose for that feedback. Yeah, we're all here to learn, and thank you for sharing your experiences in terms of what's happening out there, what you have experienced, what you think you can do better. And for me, every challenge is always that what new skill am I learning? How am I able to implement it? If I have been doing it in pockets, can I mainstream it and standardize it for my organization? What kind of data am I collecting in the area of problem solving and come up with credible ways of analyzing the data and looking for solutions, and actually now taking these back to your workplaces, being a strong business partner to your to the line managers, telling them that we can do this in a way that they find it useful, purposeful, and enjoyable for them to be able to lead their teams. So let's meet tomorrow again, bright and early at 8:30 as we conclude the rest of the webinar. For me, wish you a very good day and see you tomorrow. God bless you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.